This is Michael Leroy Coltis, and I'm from the music project Riot Legion. I also have a side project called Vile.
Giving offense is good. In fact, it's essential. Humans have long had the urge to offend against the natural order, the religious order, the moral order.
I was, maybe 12, and I had asked for a new TV. My dad got me a guitar. I had never really been interested in playing music, but all the men in my family play music, and so that's kind of when I got into it. My family would always have a, like one of those keyboards with all the built-in sounds, pianos, horns, strings, that kind of thing. And so I got, I would kind of go back and forth for a while. I actually took a hiatus from guitar for a few years as a teenager to focus more on electronic music, and so that's when I got more into the keyboards. So before I moved to Seattle, I lived in a really small town. I'm back in Michigan. And that's kind of when I started getting interested into more avant-garde styles of music. Industrial music was the one that really caught me the most. I was going to Detroit. I was sending material to some of the DJs down there. That's where I learned how to DJ at first. Made a lot of my first kind of connection. It was pretty wild when we first got to Seattle. We knew it rained. We didn't really know much else at all. There's a local DJ that I had met. His name is DJ Savak, and he runs Mechanismus. They have a festival every year that has just an amazing lineup. I had sent a track to him, and he immediately started DJing it. When you start making sounds from scratch and you start really getting into synthesis and audio design, you start to kind of realize how simple sound is. Yeah, it gives you more control over the tone of the music. You play a piano, and it sounds like a piano. But to have the ability to really tweak and fine-tune what your final result is going to be, that really got me into it pretty heavily. So there's an author named Robert Anton Wilson. He's been a big inspiration to me since I was young. But he would talk a lot about having angry optimism. I think I've always kind of liked that concept. It's okay to be angry and it's okay to be upset and everything, but realize that generally things are getting better, and it oscillates. A lot of my ideas coming from the angry optimistic viewpoint, but then I also like to say somewhat ambiguous, because I do hit on a lot of socio-political nerves, but it's always kind of ambiguous enough where really no matter where you sit on the issue, as long as you are upset about the issue, you can relate to the music. I didn't really make a project until after our invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq. A lot of my friends, after graduating high school, they ended up going into the Marines. The fact that was used as an excuse to take away a lot of people's rights, I was upset about that at a pretty young age, because around that time I would have been 17, 18. And so that was kind of what cemented Riot Legion as a project. Now I had something to talk about.
So I play keys for Riot Legion. What I get from it, I guess, is I just get the raw energy that he puts into it. The passion behind music is just the fact that it's an expression. It's an art form. It's a way of communicating. And not a lot of people get to see, or I guess hear that, I should say, in all its different forms. So I like being able to be a part of that.
I feel like a lot of people find comfort in the music, and if you're not into more aggressive styles of music, that might seem odd, but you find a lot of people who find a very much of a safe space at Riot Legion shows and around fellow fans, and I feel like they all have an outlet now. Right now I'm working on a release that's going to be a collection of tracks that have been previously unreleased. It's called Refuse or Refuse. But I've got a lot of really cool tracks, especially collaborations, stuff I've done with Max Destruct, who was on the last album. And then it's going to go back to some of my early stuff. If I had a time machine, that's what I would do, is go back and tell myself to start releasing stuff earlier.
Do you think there's anything about Riot Legion that really stands out from other bands?
It's aggressive, it's noisy, you can't forget it. It's in your face. And that's the whole point. It's supposed to be in your face. It's supposed to be something you're not going to forget.